Damn!
Yeah.
So the CBO yesterday said that the budget deficit totaled 1.7 trillion, which is an increase from 300 billion from last year. Why did the deficit increase if the U.S. economy is doing so well, as President Biden has said?
Here we go.
So a couple of things. As you know, the president has, when it comes to the deficit, he has done a record amount of work in reducing the deficit, as you just laid out. One of the things that we have seen is that congressional Democrats continue to do the trickle-down economics, which we know it doesn't work, right? We've heard it's called Meganomics, right?
Well, that is one way to say it.
And so it has increased the deficit. It has increased even more than it was anticipated. And so this is what we believe is Meganomics deficit.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
And the reason why, just a couple of things to lay out here. If you think about the Republican tax cuts, they are responsible for about 90% of the increase in the debt as a share of the economy, and that's over the last 2 decades, right? This is for some time now, and that's including that one-time emergency spending.
It's over.
And so if you look at 2023, the increase, as you just laid out, the falling tax revenue caused 63% of the increase in the deficit, and the non-interest spending was not responsible for the increase in the deficit in 2023, but it's causing just 6% of the increase. So that's how we see this, the numbers from the CBO. That's how we kind of break it down. That's how it's been broken down, and how we see why the deficit has increased. Again, this is decades and decades, if you think about it, of trickle-down economics that just doesn't work. It doesn't work, and we see that in the numbers from yesterday. Okay.
House Republicans are suggesting that another CR bill could be needed, potentially into next year. Would the president support such a bill and delaying this appropriations process again?
I'm not going to get ahead or get into the hypotheticals of how Congress is doing their business. Obviously, the House Republicans have to figure out who's going to be the next leader. As the president said, he doesn't have a vote in that. They have to make that decision as they're moving forward in figuring that out. But what we want to see happening is that we want the House and Congress to get back to work, so that we can deliver for the American people. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals, not going to get into their process here, but certainly they're trying to figure it out right now in the chaos that they've caused.
There is another CR bill, though. Does the president want to see Ukraine and Israel aid in that package?
I mean, we've been very clear. We believe, and this is something that Jake said yesterday, like we are capable as the United States, right, to be able to give additional funding to Israel, to give additional funding to Ukraine. This is something that we are capable of doing, and the importance of doing that is clearly important. I'm not going to get, there's going to be a path forward that the OMB director is going to lay out and see the best way to move forward. I'm not going to get ahead of that. You heard the president yesterday saying that he is going to, as you just iterated, that he's going to ask for more funding as it relates to Israel. I'm just not going to get ahead of that process. But this is something, again, that Jake said, we are capable of doing that, capable of providing the assistance that's needed.
You sure about that?
Just before we came out here, Republicans voted to nominate Congressman Scalise as Speaker. He obviously hasn't gotten the support of the entire caucus yet. I was wondering if the White House is monitoring that, and if you have any comment on a potential Speaker of Scalise.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Look, I hope that the House Republicans gets their affairs in order and stops the chaos so that we can, they can select the speakers that of their choosing, so that we can move forward and do the people's business. We're not part of the process. We're not going to comment about the process. As the president has said, he doesn't have a vote in that process, but we want to see the chaos be done with so that we can deliver for the American people. You heard today, the president made a very important announcement on junk fees. It's something that Americans care about. Another way to lower costs for Americans. So the president's continuing, even with the chaos that they're causing, on the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue. The president every day is continuing to deliver for the American people, clearly being a leader on the world stage as we're talking about the horrific attack in Israel, as we're talking about how we're going to, the need to continue the Ukraine funding. So the president is doing all of that, and we're waiting. We're waiting for them to get their business in order.
What?
Okay.
How soon after House leadership gets settled is the administration prepared to send a new supplemental request?
I don't have a timeline for you.
We'd think so, but no.
The president said next week, right? He mentioned next week as it relates to Israel and when the Senate gets back. I just don't have anything specific or any details to lay out on the exact timeline.
How closely does it hew to what the administration put forward in August with the addition of new funding for Israel?
Again, we're going to try and figure out the best path forward. I just don't have anything specifics to lay out at this time.
Tell me something we don't know. Yeah, tell me something we...
Go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. Do you have a list of attendees for today's meeting on anti-Semitism?
So we'll have a list for all of you, a readout of that later on. It's about, I believe, 20 leaders from the Jewish community. I laid out the staff, the senior staffers who were going to be participating on our end, and we'll certainly have a more in-depth readout afterwards.
Thanks, Karine. On junk fees, most of the fees they talked about are disclosures and don't reduce, but the ones that do reduce, isn't this just a game of whack-a-mole and those fees will pop up somewhere else?
Was that a fart? I don't know.
Look, no, not at all. These are FTC rule covers many junk fees. And just to lay out a little bit, and I think you've heard this from many of our folks here in the past 24 hours, why this is so important. They cost consumers tens of billions of dollars if you think about junk fees. That's what they cost consumers. And this FTC rule would ban many of them, as I just laid out, and including event tickets, hotels, car rentals, delivery apps, and apartment rentals. And so this is a CFPB's crackdown. It's important. The president has been very clear throughout when he talks about his economic plan, he talks about how he's going to move forward to deliver for the American people and lowering costs. And this is part of that, lowering costs, making people's lives, Americans' lives, a little bit easier. So we do not see this as a whack-a-mole. We believe that the junk fees will cover many of the fees that we see out there, as I just listed out. Right behind you, okay?
Thank you. This is related to the situation in the House, but is it the view of the White House that the Gang of Eight has an intelligence Gang of Eight that receives the top-level briefings from the executive branch has 8 members, or is the Speaker Pro Tem, Mr. McHenry, getting the security briefings at the very top level, or are there effectively only 7 members with the Speaker being vacant?
Whew. Now I feel better.
I would refer you to the Speaker Pro Tem. I don't have that information for you. I would just refer you to his office.
Seriously.